Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of Gully Cricket to Bounce Wicket podcast. I'm your host, Srinivas.
Hi everybody, this is Raja.
Hello everyone, this is Manoj.
Today, we are going to be joined by our dear friend Ram as well. And on this special episode, we are joined by very special guest, Miss Manuja, Assistant Editor, Times of India, Bangalore. Welcome back to the show, Manuja.
Thank you, Srinivas.
Our previous episode has really received a fabulous response, and we couldn't resist but ask you again for the show. Sorry if we are bothering you again.
Absolutely not. And it's always a pleasure to talk about any sport which is non-cricket, because a lot of people instantly assume that if you are a cricket lover, you don't really follow other sport. So you guys are changing that as well.
Yeah, good that we are trying to do something. Great. And in this episode, we are going to talk about hits and misses of recently concluded Olympics. Manuja, before getting into the episode, just tell us, like, you have been covering sports for quite a long time and you have covered multiple Olympics. You have worked for multiple publications. So have you ever thought you will be coming 2 times on our show?
Not at all. Especially given the name of the show, no. Cricket. Yes, I mean, probably I always thought, closer to the season of a domestic season, I thought I'll probably get to talk to you guys then. But to be doing non-cricket podcast twice in as many months, that just shows what sport and success can do.
Definitely.
For the reach.
I think the credit completely goes to Indian athletes and, people represented India in this Olympics, especially.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, in a nation where, we've struggled so much, a world over people have struggled with COVID, but we as a nation have been hit very badly. And, we somehow clung on to anything that comes our way. And
Right.
Sport is always a great healer, and in many ways it's actually allowed us to sit back and have those joyous moments in times like this. I mean, for many people who are working from home, it's actually been an outlet. And I think that whole 2 weeks of Olympics has converted a lot of people into sport lovers. It was very different because I've never covered, we've done over a period of time, this was my 5th Olympics on a desk. Okay, but I had never before written reports like this, watching, then, waiting for people, the handful of people who went to Tokyo, asking them for mixed zone courts, stitching copies together. That was a huge challenge because I cover hockey, for example, and hockey in many ways is an emotion. And it is very difficult for you to capture that emotion from television. But having said that, it was a new experience. Was I prepared to cover this way? Yes, I was. Because just before the Olympics, about 6 weeks before the Olympics, the Australian Broadcast Corporation has a program called Women in Sports. So they actually have these programs for developing country women sports journalists. And I actually did a course with them, which was exclusively on remote coverage of the Olympics. And it had people, from Brazil to Geneva to everywhere else talking about it. So it kind of, academically, was I prepared for it? Yes, I was. But I think for what India achieved and the process through which they went through, there was always that moment of saying, oh damn, I wish I was there. This is history being made. I hope I had a slice of that history. So those kind of things, yes, run. This is an Olympics I'll never forget.
Definitely. I think it's a unique experience in many ways, I guess. If we see overall, 93 countries have won at least one medal compared to 87 in the last Olympics, and 65 countries have won the gold compared to 59 last time. Mm-hmm. So both these were highest any point of time. So somewhere down the line, that extra year of preparation seemed to have helped few athletes overall. So what do you think of it? Has it really helped, or seeing the results of Olympics, do you think it has not helped? What do you think?
No, I think it has, because a lot of them, if you go back to interviews and all of that, many of them spoke about how they channelized their energies in this one year. Some of them, for example, were recovering from injuries. So it gave them that time. It allowed them time to revisit their training programs. I mean, one classic example I can give you, not a winner, but still having been there, was Sajan Prakash. If the swimmer who went from India. So if Sajan didn't have that extra 1 year, leave alone making it the A cut, he wouldn't have even had an outside chance of participating because of this, his injury and rehab process. It worked as a double-edged sword. There were people in the Indian hockey team who I thought if the Olympics had happened in 2020, they would have made it to the team. So if 2021 they didn't make it, it just didn't happen. But a lot of people, I mean, if you look at especially the track and field athletes, they use that time to put in that extra mile, put in that. But this was also for those who could afford it in terms of COVID protocols. But I think a lot of them used it to their advantage. If they didn't use it to their advantage, I think it was more to do with administrative reasons.
So overall, Manuja, how well Japan has hosted the Olympics? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we heard contradicting. I think one of our athletes was saying they were rude and stuff like that. But from what I heard from athletes who went there, who came back, they were very pleased. I mean, just look at the magnitude of the scale of the Olympics. To have hosted in these times, to have come out with the minimal, positive cases in an environment that they had to control. See, I mean, you have to understand one thing: athletes are not the easiest people to deal with. I'm not talking about in terms of tantrums, but their mental space, their pre-competition, post-competition mindset. There are a lot of things you have to factor in, their diet, their training schedules. So to pull off an Olympics at this point of time, I think great job. I don't know how many other countries could have been able to pull off the way Japan did. Because we have to understand one thing here, Japan is a very Japanese by culture, by nature, are very meticulous and well-organized people. So it's probably that innate quality in them that they put to good use here.
Definitely, I think even we learn in our manufacturing industry also, I think Raja can say that he's also working for a Japanese collaborated company. So they are very good at planning actually. Like, unlike probably what I can say, probably we do 30% of the planning and we concentrate 70% on execution. Correct. Japanese, on the other hand, normally do it the other way around. They spend their 70% of the time on planning and 30% on execution. So, and considering the situation all around the world and pandemic, I think we really have to, we really have to appreciate the efforts and the courage that they went on with the Olympics, right?
True.
Let's turn our focus towards hockey, Manuja, a sport which has brought a lot of laurels this time for India. So the resurgence of hockey has been the story of the Olympics. Both the teams, men's and women, were wonderful and very inspiring performances they put in. As someone who covered hockey so extensively, so what were your emotions knowing that boys and girls have become household names now?
It's a very fulfilling thing. Some time ago, before we started, we were speaking about emotions. Both my Twitter and Instagram bio has one line which says Indian hockey optimist. Okay. And that hasn't changed from the time I went on those platforms. A lot of people laughed at me back then. Seniors who've covered the sport, and they said, oh, come on,
right.
you guys can remain optimistic, but it doesn't change. But this is a journey that has taken years to fulfill, because in the mid 70s is when actually, I don't take away anything from the 1980 team. A medal is a medal, a gold is a gold. Their circumstances was different. But for us in men's hockey, 1975-76 was the turning point when AstroTurf was introduced. That's when Indian hockey changed. So from then to where we are now, we've made huge progress. So as somebody who's covered the sport, who's loved the sport for so long, the transitional phase has been beautiful to watch. There are many contributors to where this team stands. I mean, Graham Reed,
Right.
yes, hats off to him. But you had Harinder before that. For me, the man who actually brought about some change or put the team on this path was the Spanish guy, Brasa, Jose Brasa. He's the one who actually kind of 2010-ish, brought about the turnaround in the team. What I actually saw in terms of the big thing was belief.
Right.
Especially with the women's team. Who gave them a chance? I mean, I remember on the same platform I said, they are dark horses, but I would be happy with the quarterfinals. Semifinals is always going to be a bonus. But to see the journey that they have gone through to come back for those 3 losses, and this is not an Indian hockey team, in many ways, Indian hockey team for you is conceding those last minute goals. I mean,
Right.
we've done that in various platforms. It cost us our place at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. So to have graduated from that and caught the imagination of a country, that for me is most pleasing. For people,
Sure.
when you walk in, a simple thing, the inspiration it provides. In Bangalore, if you go past the hockey stadium now, the
Mhm.
first thing that you will see is an equal size banner of both the men and the women's team. Massive cutout of the men's and women's hockey teams.
Hmm.
That for me is a very feel good factor to see first thing in the morning. So in terms of awareness, see, the thing is, what will this translate into? Only time will tell us. But this momentum that it has gained, I mean, finally, I feel, this is something I wrote, I personally feel Indian women's hockey has come out of the shadow of Chak De. I'm sorry, I mean, it's a movie people loved. I'm not very kind with my reviews about that movie. Okay, that was 2002. It's based on 2002 Manchester Commonwealth performance. That was real. So we needed something real to actually translate into success. And I think that is what the women's team did. For me, it's a culmination of having watched 18 years. Am I satisfied? No, I'm very greedy. I mean, like Prakash Padukone in a column said, we should stop celebrating in terms of silver and medal, which silver and bronze, sorry, which means you're lowering your ambitions.
Hmm.
A gold is what you target. Don't settle for something less and be satisfied with that. So that way, yes, did they have the potential? The women's team, definitely the way they've played, it was just about, fine-tuning the basics a little more. They probably, or strategizing better, they probably would have come back with a medal. But, how often do you get a situation where we celebrate performance instead of medals? That, I think, is the biggest takeaway for this team. I mean, all the world backs a winner. And for some, I mean, how many of our athletes who were near misses, that is being celebrated now. And I think that for me is the most heartening thing about this Olympics.
Great, Manoja. So I think you've covered a lot of points here. So a bronze medal for the men's hockey team after 41 years. So who were you? Who for you were the standout players? And also women's team's performance was nothing but incredible. So a word on their journey and also standout players from women's team as well. If you
For
could
me,
tell us.
men, it starts with Srijesh. I mean, I'm not going to compare him and say he's a wall or anything like that. But for somebody like Srijesh to go out there, see what Srijesh brings to a team. I mean, think about it. 2016, he was your captain. He's gone back as the senior most player. Is the inspiration that he provides to a team. And there were some very lovely things he told the team before they went to the Olympics. And that is what you need from, somebody who is a senior. He said to his team, playing in the Olympics is important, but that is not your goal. Your goal is to win a medal, and it is important for us to focus on it. This time we are good enough to win a medal. This was what he said to the youngsters, the first time Olympians in the team, before they left. And he told himself, and he had a message for himself, which was, don't leave any holes in the goalpost. So, for somebody who's an inspiration on and off the field, the way he performed under pressure, those 15 seconds were probably the longest 15 seconds of my life, as dramatic as it sounds. But to be able to pull off, I've been a goalkeeper, so I know the kind of pressure a goalkeeper goes through, because you have nowhere to hide. You have absolutely nowhere to hide. A defender can say, oh, this fellow came in my way. A forward can say the pass wasn't right. Everybody has excuses to make, but definitely not a goalkeeper. So in that sense, for me, he was very good. Amit Rohidas, to be very honest, for me, this Olympics was coming of age for Amit Rohidas. He had this absolute street fighter attitude. For me, he was the best rusher we had for India in the penalty corners. Of course, he made mistakes. I'm not going to, ignore that. Yes, we did concede a few penalty corners because of him. But in terms of the way he played, I thought was very good. Neelakanta Sharma, that Manipur boy, the kind of calmness and maturity which he showed in the midfield, I thought was very good. Somebody like Simranjeet Singh, that for me is, making your opportunities count. He went in as an alternate player, which means he wasn't in the 16, he was in the 18. To have, gone into a game as an alternate player and then turned a game changer. I thought, that's what Sujit Hockey Academy teaches you. That's where he is from. I thought Varun Kumar also was good in patches. Hardik Singh also again in patches, but also he scored some crucial goals. Vivek Sagar Prasad, at 21, that boy is now going to be a DSP also. Okay. He's mentored by Ashok Kumar, one of those Madhya Pradesh boys. His was not a flash in the pan. He was the FIH Rising Star of the Year awardee in, I think, 2018. So, one goal from him, I think, made a lot of difference for him. Harmanpreet, I can't not mention Harman. I think Harman was very good, especially with his conversions. Rupinder, yes, he converted goals, but I think 4 goals. It included a stroke. But yeah, defense, I think they left holes. But this Olympics also was a relatively quiet Olympics for the captains. Rani is always your superstar in the team, but this time you found your other stars. So Manpreet also, for that matter, he also wasn't like, his usual. I wouldn't say he was bad or anything like that. No, it just that he had a quiet Olympics by his standards. Women's team, what do you say? What a journey that has been. For me, now everybody's talking about them, but it's a process that I saw over a period of time. I remember we struggled for space throughout for women's hockey. Most of my women's hockey pieces that I wrote over the last 5 years was for the special feature page, because we couldn't find enough space in the. In fact, on the regular days, something I even mentioned to one of my colleagues in Delhi. I said, you all dropped so many of my stories over the past few years about women's hockey. So they generally flew under the radar. Like Jean Marin said after the tournament, he said, when I took over, if I told anybody that this team could make it to the semi-finals, people would just laugh and say, yeah, well, coach, you told us and we believe you. So belief was a very, very important part of this team. See, everybody talks about their rags to riches stories, but what you really have to see is this kind of circumstances or that toughness that comes from their circumstances. Somebody like Vandana, I mean, to have lost her father who was her backbone, and then see, the reason why I'm speaking about their backgrounds again is it's not that this is the first team that has come with backgrounds like this. No, this is the first team to have channelized their fights, whether it is fight with society, system, or anything else, in a way of saying we will find success. The biggest contribution or achievement of this Indian women's hockey team for me is belief and empowering men or women here of saying, dare to dream, and you can live it. A lot of them, I think that is what it was for them. They I mean, Savita Punya again, I mean, it was the tournament of the goalkeepers for India. Savita, if you compare her to Srijesh, is a relatively quiet person in terms of interacting with the team. She doesn't get physical with her teammates. I noticed a couple of times when Srijesh actually used his stick to pat his teammates to ask them to fall in line. So those are things that she doesn't do. But as the senior most, she weighed in with experience, soaked in pressure. It wasn't easy. I mean, somebody like, say, Australia, for example, just repeated the attacks. You don't have enough time to recover. And for a goalkeeper, mentally, it is very, very depressing. I don't know if you all remember the image of Srijesh after India lost to Australia in that league match. In the league match where he actually went and sat alone in the goalpost. I mean, it is a very, very lonely place for an player to be. In that sense, Savita, I think, as one of the senior most in the team, she completely stood up for the count and said, this is who I am and this is what I bring to the team. So in that sense, for me, she was amongst the standout performers. Vandana was another complete street fighter, will go out there. Even when it came to controlling possession, there were times what appealed the most to me about Vandana is she learned from her mistakes. There were times when her course correction on the field, that I thought was phenomenal. Salima Tete. Salima for me was one of the unsung heroes. The way she controlled the midfield, I thought she was brilliant with thing, and she kind of flew under the radar because of all the others who were around her, but she may not have landed up amongst the goal scorers, but she definitely deserves a lot of praise for who she was and what she brought to the team. Then you also had Nikki Pradhan was very good. In patches, everybody came good. The thing about this team was somebody the other rose to the occasion. Somebody like, say, Deep Grace Eka. She kind of faltered in the defense, but she stood up when she had to. It was a very well-rounded team performance, I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Manoja. Thanks for those great insights. We hope this inspires more and more youngsters to take up the sport, hockey. Let's discuss athletics now. Neeraj Chopra, a sensation for a nation which hadn't won a medal in a track and field. Can you put this achievement in context for us?
To be honest, for people who followed Neeraj Chopra over the years, would that come as a surprise? Not yet, really. But we waited for way too long for that medal to come through. And and even when you spoke about athletics over the years, 140, 141 years, you only spoke about 2 near misses.
Right.
So that was your reference point. There was PT Milkha Singh, and after that there was PT Usha. So in terms of reference point, you really didn't have much.
Right.
Neeraj
Right.
has really worked hard. He's again an inspirational story on how you overcome your stumbling blocks. You've gone through injury. An elbow injury is not easy for a javelin thrower at all. To go out, I remember during the lockdown, he trained in Odisha. If you look at his training videos, it actually gives you goosebumps. I mean, for somebody like me,
Right.
he actually jumps hurdles, which is as tall as me. So he's, the process which he followed, I don't think surprised many. A medal was always, everybody said he can't settle for anything but a medal. But what he achieved there, the composure with which he kind of went through that 87.58, it seemed like, okay, this is another national championship and I'm going through my grind. I think that's the confidence you get when you are very invested in your abilities and assured about it. It's that self-belief. I mean, for me, this Olympics was all about self-belief, and it is that self-belief that Neeraj showed, and like hats off to him for that.
Sure. And also athletes like Kamalpreet Kaur, Avinash Sable, they did wonderfully well. A word on that?
Yeah, see, like I said at the beginning, for me, this Olympics, for me, sport is not only about medals. For me, it's about performance. From X point to Y point, what is your level of improvement? Where do you stand, from where you stood earlier? In that sense, a lot of people, I thought, exceeded expectations. They weren't just the also ran. It's like the 4x400 meters men's relay team. Okay, they didn't.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't qualify, but they just missed out on a final appearance. But that a shade over 3 minutes that they put in, that says something about the way the team is heading. So I mean, anybody who missed out, it's a journey and not the success story that matters.
Right.
So let's talk wrestling now. The wrestlers brought a lot of joy to the country. A silver from Ravi Dahiya and a bronze from Bajrang Punia. And added to that, Deepak Punia missed out on a medal by a single bout. So
Correct.
what did you feel about how the wrestling contingent this time around?
I mean, I think we spoke about Ravi Dahiya in the build up to the Olympics, where he was again another one who was, who lived under the shadow of, say, somebody like Bajrang, and everybody said, Bajrang is your man to watch. The way he went about his, plan for the final, I thought was, until the final, I thought was brilliant. I mean, the way he assured himself of a medal, and then he went about winning that, especially after that semi-finals against Kazakhstan guy. Yeah, I think he played somebody, from Kazakh in that thing. There was absolutely this calmness about him of saying, okay, I'm assured of a medal, what next? For me, one of the something that I observed during the Olympics was actually Ravi Dahiya's celebrations. If you looked at his silver, a lot of people, due respect, you've achieved, a lot of people celebrated their bronze, this thing. That sadness when he came out with that silver,
Right.
just spoke so much about ambition. And that, I think, is a great takeaway for Indian sport, of saying somebody wants to reach higher. It's one thing to dream, it's the other to push yourself to go up there to achieve. I think Ravi Dahiya was one of them. Bajrang, yes, a 2-time Asian champion. It was, disappointing to see him. I mean, I think he was more disappointed than anybody else to come back with that bronze, and he even said that. He said, I would have been happier if the color was gold. But overall, I think the wrestling contingent, everybody said, oh, they'll have 5 medals, 6 medals. But the 3 that they got, I think those are very fair 3 medals that we deserve to win. And, just that whole thing where, the 2 that they won, it's just the way they kind of put a process in place despite the administrative shortcomings that wrestling has always gone through, and the controversies that surround them right now.
Before we move on from wrestling, I also wanted to have a take from you on what Vinesh Phogat said recently about her experience and her battles going into the Olympics.
I mean, to due respect to, it's very, very disheartening to see what Vinesh has gone through. And, I don't see, one thing is psychologically, how do you deal with failure? Especially with, Vinesh said a very she made a very, very strong statement. She said, everyone outside is treating me like I am dead. I'm dead. Yeah. 1 medal lost and everything is finished. That I feel, we need to treat our athletes with respect.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, she's the one who was on the mat, not you or me. So give her that respect, give her that thing, because the reason the federation said was she was not staying and training with her Indian teammates. And, she, which if she had won a medal, would you have still gone after her? That's my question. If this was the same yardstick for everything, then yes, she's wrong. Yes, the singlet that she wore of a personal sponsor instead of the official one, that I agree she shouldn't have done.
Absolutely agree. And I just hope that she could come out of this experience a lot stronger and regains her confidence and her abilities and just continues, because I think what she does on the mat is incredible. Yeah. So let's move on to boxing for a bit. Lavlina Borgohain kept the gains from boxing over the years, and she kept it going. A word on her achievement and her overall boxing contingent, because Mary Kom also battled very hard, and Satish Kumar chose to fight with around 12 to 14 stitches. So a word on the whole boxing contingent and how they fared.
One thing for me, of course, Lavlina is one of the stories of the Olympics. On her debut, and the way she fought, I mean, she lost to the top seed in the semi-finals, and then she that her bout against the Chinese Taipei girl Cheng in the quarterfinals spoke about a lot of character. And see, we have women's boxing in particular has endured a lot in the last few years. The Mary Kom and Nikat feud. There's been a lot of focus on Mary Kom that and to some extent Sarita Devi at the last Olympics, that you actually forget the existence of the others. When I say we forget, it's the layman and the general people in general. But Lavlina again was one of these athletes who was always rated highly. To come out the way she did in her first Olympics at a very young age, I mean, kudos to her. Satish, I mean, my heart goes. I mean, what a fighter. I mean, he deserves a medal only for that fight that he put up, and that, it's just nerve-wracking to even see that injury that he had on his, below his eyebrows. I mean, very tough luck for him. Mary Kom will be the heartbreak of boxing. I mean, so near yet so far. But you can't cry foul after it's over, because you know what you're signing up for. In terms of you always knew that you can't contest. It's the decisions. It's a part of your ruling. you have to be aware what you're doing on in the ring. You can't say, I came out and I realized I hadn't won. You know whose hand went up. And as athletes, as federation, you have to know the norms. When it came to her being asked to change her attire before the bout, I don't blame her as much as I blame the federation. It's not that the norm of saying that you can only have your first name or your last name and not your middle name on your jersey. It didn't come up overnight. It was a part of the IOC manual sent out. Yes, sometimes it did go unchecked, like the way it did in Mary Com's previous bout. But the federation has to be accountable for it. Disappointment from boxing, yes. I mean, nobody disappointed more than the shooters, but yeah, disappointment from the boxing community, I wouldn't say. I mean, I think Lavanya just changed the landscape and yet again showed, what women boxers in India can do.
Absolutely. Let's go to badminton now. PV Sindhu and the contingent of shuttlers, Sathik Sairaj, Chirag, played their hearts out. And a word on Sindhu's journey, and as well as the boys who won against the eventual Olympic champions.
Yeah, one thing the boys, tried to punch above their weight. There was a lot of uncertainties going into this thing because of the complicated ranking systems that they had, and the fact that they missed out on a lot of practice because a lot of tournaments got cancelled. Sindhu for me was brilliant till that match against Tai. So she was outplayed by an opponent who just knew how to tire out Sindhu. She kind of set the pace. I mean, the thing with Tai was she actually dictated the pace of the game, which was out of comfort zone for Sindhu. I mean, Sindhu lost to a player who was miles ahead of her on that day. So, I mean, nothing wrong in, losing to a player like that. I mean, she fought it out. But, to have those 2 medals from 2 Olympics, I think Sindhu will go a long way in inspiring, I mean, it's not that she's not done it before or, she won't be doing it again. But yeah, for me, Sindhu was one of the highlights. And imagine the kind of pressure she went into the Olympics with.
Yeah.
When you knew Marin was not there, they said, oh, okay, gold is hers, silver is hers. So, convert the color of the medal. So, and, she also, parted ways with Gopi. She trained at the Gachibowli Stadium, had her personal coach with her. She's had a tough journey, and she's made it worth it with the medal.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And let's move on to weightlifting for a bit. One woman army who got the games to start off with a high. Word on Mirabai Chanu and what the 202 kgs means to us.
That means the world, doesn't it? I mean, who would have thought that India would actually win a medal so early in the games? I mean, her first Olympics, and so the second lifter after Maleshwari to be doing it, and she did it after like 21 years. Even her, like in many ways, like Ravi Daya, there was a lot of disappointment in her of not winning that gold. But just to see her composure and the way she went about her process, I thought she was like top class. And like you said, she was a one-man army. The way she went about this thing at 20, she's 26. Yeah, she is 26. The process of her having gone out there as, I mean, she what was her benchmark? Everybody else had somebody or the other with them. Who did she have? From taking lift in trucks for training to being who she is today. I thought, I mean, anybody, it is probably that region that she comes from. I mean, a place like Manipur, which makes them so tough because your opportunities and resources are so limited.
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to her, and I'm just hoping that she's also she's a two-time Olympian. I remember, that Rio Olympics, after she failed miserably at Rio, and then everybody thought, okay, she's done. 202 is a lot of weight to carry for somebody who competes in the 49 kilos category, and she did that with class.
I think she set the tone for the Olympics for India, right? Especially winning the medal on the first day. Probably, I'm sure it would have lured more people to start following Olympics this time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what everybody usually through the say third day, fourth day, we wake up to the Olympics, and then this was like that jerk, no talk. There she is, we have a medal. Let's see what it also, set the expectations very high because you had our shooters there. But then, but this has been a journey like that. No, I mean, the way people have gone about this Olympics, great fun.
And let's go to the near misses and great positives. You touched upon a few of them already. Aditi Ashok missing out on a podium finish by a stroke. Sumit Nagal winning the first singles tennis match for India after Leander Pace. Devi creating history by winning the first fencing game for India, and also Fawad Mirza performing extremely creditably and finishing in the 20s across all his events. Word on all these great achievers.
Yes, I mean, see, like these are people. Okay, let's start with Fawad. Then again, the only one from his country, very little benchmark, has been through the grind, lived away from home, lived in Germany for a long time. To make his Olympic appearance count, for me, was a takeaway for him. 23rd is a very, very credible performance in equestrian. He actually, again, it's an awakening for the sport. People actually stood up and said, okay, we have somebody there, equestrian, it's a beautiful sport to watch. So, and I'm sure a lot of people watched equestrian. And why did you watch equestrian? It's because of Fawad Mirza. Yes, absolutely. Aditi, I don't think I was more heartbroken for anybody else in the tournament, in the competition than for her. She again, she's crisscrossed the world, come to Tokyo, kept her composure. But for me, she's a winner. So Aditi's performance actually raises the bar for women's golf in the country. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a word on Sumit Nagal as well.
Sumit, yes. Very unfortunate with the way tennis by itself played out at the Olympics for India. I mean, we didn't need those controversies going into the games at all. And having gone there and then did what he did, I mean, it was a long wait for us. For Indians in tennis, but I mean, just look at who he went down to. I mean, it was Medvedev, yeah. So but having beaten the Asian champion Istomin in the first round, and then gone that little distance against Medvedev. I mean, at the end of the day, Medvedev was world number 2 when he played that match. So women, yes, again, Sania and Ankita fought well, but then it just wasn't enough that day.
So let's go to archery a bit. Was it the case of South Koreans being too good? The men's team, the mixed team, and as well as Deepika Kumari all fell in the quarters to eventual, gold medal winners from the form of South Koreans.
Yeah, I think they felt the pressure. Yes, South Koreans, I think, are a mental block for, I don't know about the rest of the world, but definitely they're a mental block for Indians. And in many ways, I think we lose the plot the moment we see a South Korean. So it's like what Deepika, said on her return. She said, everybody keeps saying we don't have a medal. Okay, so she said it dominates their psyche, and it works as a mental block.
Yeah.
Then it's the same for all athletes. In many ways, I don't think it's that South Korean wall that we failed to break, and I honestly thought they would this time, because they actually started off so well, even Deepika for that matter, Antanu also. But their performance and that of the shooters also raised the question of needing psychological help.
Yeah.
Mental health is not something we focus on too often, and it's only fair that they do.
Since you touched upon shooting a bit, let's just add to that. There was a lot of hope, there was a lot of pressure as well, and unfortunately, there has been a lot of ugliness from the public as well as inside the federation itself, with the bickering that is going on. Overall, what did you feel as someone who covered shooting?
Washing dirty linen in public, I think, has become a kind of a habit for federations. I mean, okay, whatever happens, come back, review it, see what you can do. I mean, you're saying we're going to have a 3-part review of evaluation of coaches, shooters. Yes, I'm not for a moment saying athletes didn't make mistake there, shooters, I'm not taking names here. Everybody had their part to play in this whole soap opera that played out, but the federation has to be more one, transparent, and the other, backing of their athletes.
Yeah,
I mean, it is very when you look at this thing, we had 15 quota places, and how often do you go into a Olympics with 15 places in shooting? But having done that, we thought we turned the corner there. No. Whether it was Manu Bak, Saurabh Chaudhary, Abhishek Verma is one I actually had a lot of hope on. But somehow I feel there was a serious lack of mental conditioning of these athletes going into the competition. There were breakdowns. Like, I don't know. See, it's easy for me to sit here and talk, but looking back, I wonder if Manu's equipment malfunctioning, if that could have been handled better.
Yeah.
Were we equipped to handle it better? Yeah,
but fortunately, all of these the athletes are fairly young, and some of them into their teenage. So I think maybe they'll only get better, and hopefully in 3 years,
somehow we don't want to support our athletes. I'm not like taking sides here, but please, Manu's only 19.
Correct.
When Simona Biles goes through a breakdown, or Osaka goes through a mental thing, you want to stand up there and say, respect them. Come on, what are our athletes at home? What are they supposed to be made of?
Correct. Yeah, since you spoke about a few international stars as well, I also wanted to have a take from you on, Allyson Felix became the most decorated female track and field athlete. Eliud Kipchoge became, he won his second back-to-back marathon. Marcel Jacobs winning a surprising 100-meter finals. Italy and Qatar sharing the gold for the high jump. Tom Daley, Ariane Titmus, and especially her coach. So many, and first gold medal for Philippines. So many international stories have come to light. Your favorite one of those, which has been your favorite story?
Allyson Felix.
Nice.
I mean, 11th Olympic medal. Come on, I mean, give it to her for who she is. And the journey itself. For me, it's all about journey, and for me, she's a very colorful character, and the one thing that there was a picture that went viral of her daughter which said, "My mother is faster than yours." I mean, that was so cute. And then from Athens, I mean, just look at the sheer versatility of the athlete. Silver in Athens, silver in Beijing. You've been there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th Olympics.
Yeah.
And for a track and field athlete, sorry for all of Bolt didn't do that, huh? And yeah, I mean, what she in between Rio and Tokyo, she also became a mother.
Yeah.
So that didn't slow her down. So in many ways, she's off the field also. We have to remember her for her kind of contribution, where she called out Nike for the way her pregnancy period was handled. I mean, she accused them of giving her a pay cut. So, when you do so many things, when you stand up for yourself, especially as a woman outside your workspace, there is always that pressure to perform on this thing. Otherwise, they'll say, "Oh, this one just talks."
Correct.
Yeah. But the way she went about is like, it's amazing. It still gives me goosebumps.
Incredible. Yeah, that was the overarching feeling of watching her perform at the highest level. And Sinu has been prompting me that I forgot to mention table tennis. A word on the incredible performances of our paddlers, especially Sharat Kamal and Manika Batra. They played their hearts out, especially Sharat Kamal winning the one-off game against the so-called dragon and the dictator of Malong.
One thing I will say, okay, when you're talking about Manika Batra and Sharat Kamal, disappointed with their mixed doubles match. I mean, it almost felt like two strangers had turned up for the match. I'm not saying, I mean, the way Manika went about this thing, but what I am personally very proud of the way Sharat Kamal played was his match against Malong.
Yeah.
I mean, give it to him. I mean, I that for me is like, fighting tooth and nail. You can use as many phrases or turn of phrase you want to, use, pushing the limits. But those first 3 games that he played was top class. And I'm just hoping, if I ever see Sharat Kamal anytime soon, I would probably tell him, see you in Paris.
He seems good enough for that, right? He's still fit and he's moving incredibly well. And,
yeah, that's what he said. Yeah. I think he was one of those who said, "I'll see you all in Paris."
Incredible. So before we move on, I also wanted to have an understanding from you on the contributions of private or players like JSW or OGQ, and institutional players like Indian Army, and you mentioned Petroleum Board as well, and state governments like Odisha in backing these athletes and them performing to this level.
See, it's a very important thing that you've raised on the people's contribution over a period of time. Private players, of course, have played a huge role. I'll start with Go Sports Foundation. Go Sports, Olympics, Paralympics, both sides, they've been huge backers of the athletes. Some of the lesser known names, I don't know how many people are still are aware of it, but for example, Savita and Rani's some of the first backers was Go Sports. They gave them a small stipend when they were young girls. JSW, JSW has done everything from investing in infrastructure to training to getting the best on board for the athletes. Olympic Gold Quest. You have a lot of private players who need backing now, especially to take their programs forward. Odisha government. I'm a huge fan of what they do. But then again, see, much before what Odisha government did for Indian hockey, we had Sahara doing it.
Right.
Sahara were one of the first corporate private sponsors of Indian hockey, and that was the first time Indian hockey actually saw stipends for the athletes. Whatever minimum amount, but our players did get some money at the end of the month. The way Odisha has supported, see, a lot of other state governments give you incentives. Okay, crores of rupees are being given away as cash prizes to winners. Then you have this thing of saying, I'll make you DSP, I'll make you XYZ. But what did you contribute in getting them to where they are now?
Right.
That process, I think Odisha puts in place. You've given them infrastructure. I don't know if you've Neeraj Chopra, for example. When during the lockdown, he spent his considerable time at Kalinga Stadium training. So there was world-class facility for him to go to. Governments down south, I don't think anybody did anything much. Hats off to whatever it is, hats off to Sports Authority of India as well. They've managed to keep players who were in India in bubbles in whichever way they could, and however they could in the last 16 months. It was not easy. I saw the Sports Authority of India, the Sai South Center in Bengaluru. They struggled to even get natural protein for players because of the lockdown. And there was, at one point of time, there was rumors that COVID was spreading due to chicken. So there was no chicken being supplied. So I think for a week or 10 days, and protein is so important for these athletes, they went without, chicken for, I think, 10 days. A lot of the staff inside didn't go home because they were a part of the bubble. So, like you said, a whole lot of people contribute to the success, and we often forget who they are and how do they go about process. I think if one thing that governments should learn from this whole Olympic journey is catch them young, invest in them, and put them through the process. I'm just hoping that more corporates come forward. I'm sure everybody has CSR funding to invest, one tiny part of it into grassroots sport.
Yeah.
I think, yes, it's great that we've had a great Olympics. Our players, our Indian athletes were at the Independence Day parade. Fine. But where does sport go from here? It is now that we need to cash in on this momentum and take Indian sport forward.
Absolutely.
So I just had one thing to ask, Manuja. When is that elusive medal for Karnataka coming for Olympics? Because look, I was doing a bit of research. I was just because I was wondering why didn't Prakash Padukone couldn't win? Why couldn't he win Olympics medal? Then I got to know that it was in only 1992 that it was introduced into Olympics. By that time, Prakash Padukone had retired. Now Aditya Ashok so near. It's so far thing. So I don't know. I mean, lot of. I think there are lots of hits and misses in between, but no one has come close. But this Aditya Ashok, it's still hurting. So where do you see, Manuja? Like, any athletes who can, who are good enough for an Olympics medal in Karnataka?
To be very honest, I think Karnataka sport is at one of its lowest right now. I mean, just picture this: we had 4 players from Karnataka in the 2016 hockey team. You don't have anybody in the camp right now.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so that is where it is. And overall, we sent 4-5 athletes this year. I mean, of course, Rohan missed out. Unless and until, Sunil missed out. Will we do anything in 2024? I'm not entirely sure. But if Karnataka as a government wants to truly invest and build on this momentum, is look at 2028. You get 7 years from now to nurture athletes who are already good. If you look at somebody, for example, the women's hockey team.
Yeah.
We haven't had anybody in the team, I think, since 2006. Yeah, that's a long time. So, you have to first revive sport before you start thinking of representing the country. I mean, there's a huge gap in sport in Karnataka. You may find a couple of the shuttlers coming through, but beyond that, I of course, Aditi and Fuad will continue to be our biggest bets. Beyond them, immediately, do I see anybody? No. You ask me about cricket, I'll tell you who will go into the Indian team.
Yeah, cricket is always there, but it's unfortunate because we had a period where we had a lot of very good swimmers, and there are all-round athletes were there. Prakash Padukone legacy is there, and a lot of athletes in Karnataka. It's not that only cricket has been our only thing. There are a lot of people who have done well in athletics, and various other sports. Even hockey. I mean, a lot of people used to play hockey from Karnataka. So these days, not seeing anything. It's great to see Andhra and other states doing well in Olympics. It's fantastic. But to see not even one medal all these years, it does hurt, because for a state like Karnataka, which has good sporting history, to not win an Olympics medal, individual Olympics medal, that does hurt.
Oh, yeah, it hurts even to see the lack of participation.
Yeah, exactly. Four, it was very less. Yeah. It's
True.
good that Sindhu has been consistent and she's been winning, and yeah, hopefully we'll have a double-digit medal tally in 2024. That's my hope.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
Hopefully, especially in team sport.
Yeah, exactly. Because the hockey revival was something which no one gave a chance. As you told, I had noticed this Indian hockey optimist as in your bio. So that turned out to be true. Miracles do happen. Because to be very honest, I did not expect the women's team to do so well. I'll be very honest with that. So it was great to see them, perform the way they did. And they're unbelievable, thing.
Absolutely.
I think, Ram, on a lighter note, we are happy enough with players from Karnataka to do what they are doing in cricket. I think let's leave.
I knew this was coming.
Yeah, correct. Waiting for a KL Rahul 100 today.
No, let people from other states also give us a platform. No?
Yeah. Let's hope KL saves this match.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we have covered most of the games, and thank you very much, Manuja, for taking out your time on a Sunday and giving your valuable insights.
Yeah, can't thank you enough, Manuja, for this.
Amen.
Thanks a lot on the short notice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Always super fun to talk to you guys.
Thank you. So that's all for the episode, guys. Please do leave your review on Apple Podcast if you are listening to this on Apple Podcast, and follow us on Spotify and Google Podcast to get notified when we release a new episode. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more such interesting episodes. Bye-bye.